Hailey Bieber talks witchcraft? Oh, we gotta talk about this, but before we get into it...
I put a spell on you, and now you're mine. You can't stop the things I do. I know it's been 300 years, right down to the day. Now the witch is back, and there's hell to pay. I put a spell on you, and
now you're mine! Happy Halloween, messy besties! Welcome back to my channel, best friend and girl. Happy Halloween! I, first of all, wanted to give you guys a very big welcome. It is Halloween, and I had to bring it and represent my favorite Halloween character of all time, Miss Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus! Oh, look. Another glorious morning. Makes me sick! Alright. So, best friend, if you are brand new, the whole vibe on my channel is like we're on a FaceTime call and we're just hanging out, we're just having a good time and just being gay, free, happy ourselves and just not really caring about what anyone has to say, okay? Book! Alright, so listen, best friend. In Hailey's newest podcast that she did, we talked about this. She was asked about witchcraft, right? And there's like these clips going around of her talking about, and then her talking about other things regarding witchcraft. And there was this huge rumor back in the day that allegedly that's how she got Justin. So I thought, because it's Halloween, I thought it would be very interesting to talk about that and other, witchy situations here in Hollywood. So buckle in, because we gotta talk. So this is a clip, and then we can talk.
Have you dabbled in witchcraft?
Oh, that's really a crazy question. I feel like people know that I'm was raised Christian. So that was always in my household, my mom thought everything was witchcraft.
Really?
Everything was demonic, was never allowed to watch Harry Potter. It was that serious. So don't dabble, love.
Don't dabble, love.
This is a little tincture potion that I got. I would say probably when I was around 12, my dad flew me to go meet with this witch who lived in the mountains, and she made this specifically for me. She told me that it would make a young Canadian pop star fall in love with me. So yeah, I've been taking this one for years. Absolutely love it. And yeah, thanks, Dad.
I say it's a pie up a baby up and die. I say it's a pie up a baby up and die. Listen. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is I feel in my heart because Hailey's not the only one who has been accused of this. The Kardashians are also accused of this. A lot of people in Hollywood are actually accused of supposedly, doing some kind of, witchcraft or some kind of sacrifices to get to where they are, right? So that's definitely something that's very publicly talked about here in Hollywood. So I thought we should elaborate a little bit more on that. So the first thing I wanted to say is I've lived in here. I lived in Hollywood for, Los Angeles for, I think 10 years now. Wow. Yeah, 10 years. Lived in Los Angeles 10 years. And I've heard a lot of things, you guys. Here's the thing. A lot of people talk. A lot of people, when they're a little bit drinking or if they're upset with somebody, they'll talk a little bit more than they should. You know what I mean, girl? And so, having said that, I've heard things, especially about sacrifices and rituals and cults and, organizations here in Hollywood, which... Listen, you guys, I will always tell you, when you come here, there is this very eerie energy about it, especially if you go to Hollywood Boulevard. We've talked about this, how, in the movies or in your imagination before coming here, you have this you have this thought about it. It's going to be so magical and Hollywood and Marilyn Monroe and, you know, all these things. But then you get here and there's just this really weird, dark vibe, you know. I personally do not like Hollywood. I never go to Hollywood Boulevard. Like, there's a really cool Marshalls there. And if I ever go to Hollywood Boulevard, it's to go to the Marshalls, okay? So other than that, no, honey, I don't partake in the Hollywood thing. But, you know, there's this situation going around where a lot of celebrities are now being accused of it. You know, the Kardashians, and Khloe Kardashian has actually talked about this.
The Kardashians are witches. Oh, I've even seen this video. The story is their great-grandmother on the Kardashian side went to a witch and made some sort of spell that her family would be famous and rich. I'm not a witch that I know of. I can't tell you what my great-grandmother did, but I don't think any of us are witches. I would hope if I was a witch, I would know some really cool spells. And I know nothing. Another rumor is that Kris Jenner orchestrates everything. I actually love.
And with Hailey, you know, of course, with the tincture, you know, obviously, like, you look at that and you're like, girl, you know, but here in Los Angeles, girl, you know, there's tinctures for everything. And that looked like spirulina, if I'm being honest, because I used to take spirulina. Actually, I really should start taking spirulina again. It was really good for me. So yeah, spirulina is that color. So I'm guessing it's that. I mean, I feel like she was just being, you know, she was just being jokey, right? It was just a joke. But you guys, in Hollywood, anything is possible. I think I've told you guys this story, but I'll tell it again, because I'm gonna add something else to it that I've actually never said. So I remember specifically being told from somebody that did Uber that they went into a house and it was like March. I mean, it was like nothing to do with Halloween. Halloween wasn't even close at that time. It was like in the middle of the year. And it was a house in the hills, you know, and to get to the hills, you have to like go through all these really weird, like, you know, roads, you know, and it is true. I mean, oh my God, the roads are crazy. Like, going to the Hollywood Hills, like, all you see is like the ground, you know, you're literally on mountains, and like the street is so narrow and so like tiny for two cars. Like, it's creepy. But anyways, these houses are like on top of the hills, on top of the, you know, the mountains. And the person who told me said that, you know, they were delivering something to that, you know, place. And this guy comes out and he tells the guy calls in the gate. They allow the car in. When he goes into like the, you know, because mansions usually have like a huge, like, kind of like parking space, if you will. And there was like a bunch of like really like expensive cars and like SUVs and just like crazy expensive cars. And he was met with somebody who came out, and that somebody was wearing like a cloth, like a, you know, like a clothes thing, you know, like a cloth or whatever it's called. And all of a sudden, best friend, he gives them the, you know, what they ordered. And then, like, as he's going back to his car, he turns around and he looks at the house, and everybody is dressed like that. Everybody is dressed like that. It's like they're wearing, it's like they're wearing, whatchamacallit, like, you know, the cult things, you know what I'm talking about, you know. I'll put a picture here. And he turns around and he says that everybody in the house was wearing that. And that it was like these eerie, like, drumming noises and like just a very weird vibe. And also, best friend, you know, I've heard a lot about sacrifices and all of these, you know, crazy things to get what you want. You know, you always look at, you know, people like Taylor Swift and stuff. They're always being accused of doing witchcraft. They're always being accused of doing this. You know, for me, I feel like, you know, I've heard that, and I've heard some other things, like at parties and stuff, where they tell me that certain celebrities practice really weird rituals, okay? They'll fast for some days, and then they'll drink these really weird, like, tinctures. Then they'll, you know, Sandra Bullock once talked about putting baby foreskin on her face.
This way in which one forces through microneedling. It's like a little roller with these, some of you, I think many of you know it, and it pushes through the skin and ruptures the collagen and then boosts it. You look like a burn victim for a day, but then it pushes the
What are you pushing into the skin? Serum? Sandra?
Sarah?
Terry? What are you pushing into the skin?
Well, you push in whatever the facialist would like to insert into your pores.
But what is it?
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby.
We call it, I call it the penis facial, and I think when you see how good it is to your face, you too will run to your local facialist and say, give me the penis.
So there's just a lot of like weird things that these people allegedly do to stay young, to stay famous. You know, if you guys ever watched Death Becomes Her with Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler, you know, it's all about that. It's all about staying young forever and taking a tincture, like a, you know, a potion that will make you freeze in time. And then at some point you have to fake your own death, or you have to disappear, you have to do this. So there, you know, and they say that that's very much how it is. And that's why, like, a lot of people you see, like, you know, Lindsay Lohan looking so incredible and all, you know, Kris Jenner and this and that. They say it's of course plastic surgery, but there's a lot of people who say like, no, that's something different. That's something very, very different. So, you know, there's just so many different things. And you know, my only like crazy thing that I've said a million times, and I always say it because, you know, it's so creepy, but my grandmother had a nanny taking care of her, helping me when she, you know, was with Alzheimer's and dementia. And she told me that there's that mountain. I've told you this millions of times, but maybe there's some new people here. There's a mountain in Venezuela where people allegedly go and do sacrifices. They have to push somebody that they love in order to get what they want. And the legend is that allegedly Shakira did that. So, you know, there's just so many really weird things that, you know, that I do believe in, you know. But then again, I went to Salem, you know, which was one of my best places I've ever been. And, you know, there are witches, and they, you know, that Wiccan is a religion, right? So, you know, I had some really wonderful conversations with some women there who say like, yeah, we're witches, but we don't do harm. That we just believe in nature. We believe in, you know, like healing with plants and like, you know, working with what the you know, Mother Nature gave us, what the earth is giving us. So I do feel like there's a bad and a good side to everything and every religion, right? So I don't think it's fair to like say like, oh, you know, the witches, you know, they're all like that, you know, like hocus pocus, you know. It's not like that. But I was surprised when, you know, because you have to take a minute to learn about things. You know, some people, they don't want to learn. They just kind of take what they see and they run with it. You know, I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to learn, because I thought witches were all, you know, like spells and evil. But I talked to some amazing women, mothers and, you know, grandmas and just, you know, random people who, you know, because I talked to everybody, and they told me, you know, like, yeah, we practice, you know, witchcraft, we're Wiccan, and we work with what the earth gives us. And I thought that was so beautiful, because it's like you're using what, in my opinion, what God created, you're using it to help. You know, you're using the plants to heal, to make teas, you're using, you know, crystals to you know, I believe in quartz, you know, and sage and incense and you know, things that the earth gives us. I just think it's so beautiful to do. So, you know, I don't think it's so like one way or the other. I definitely think that there's always a middle ground for everything. So anyways, so many conspiracies. Do I think that Hailey Bieber really, you know, practices witchcraft? I really don't know. You know, I truly don't know what these people do. You know, I'm always told that because I believe in God, I can't, you know, use sage or use incense or do this or do that. I respect your guys's, you know, opinion on that, but like, I do believe in God, and I have a beautiful relationship with God, and I also believe that God wants us to help ourselves. So if, let's say, aloe vera is good to clear the skin, or, you know, or some plants are good to you know, clear the energy, and sage and this, I love it. So I just do everything with a lot of respect for everything and everyone. So anywho, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. It's also the last day of the month, so I want you guys to, you know, just be loving, be happy, be healthy. Next month is going to be very blessed. I love you guys so much. And remember, twist the bones and bend the backs. To the Malika Mystica, trim him of his baby fat. To the Malika Mystica, give him fur. Black is black, just like this.